Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are talking with a former WSOP bracelet winner, WPT main event winner, and co-founder of Qlash of esports, talking about his harrowing experience of leaving the Ukraine just as the Russian government attacked and invaded Ukraine. Welcome back to the show, Eugene Katchalov. We are talking about this experience, and you really have described it in full detail on some other interviews. We're very pleased that you're able to come onto our show and describe it as well. But you documented it on your Twitter. You have over 38,000 followers on your Twitter account, and people were able to live that experience through it. When we left, the first part of our interview, you talked about leaving Kiev and then going to your friend's parents' house. And then now you're in a situation of, do you stay there? Is it really going to be that bad? Should we leave? Maybe if we don't leave, we're never going to get out. Are we going to leave? And this is kind of a waste. We just drove all the way out there for nothing and we panicked for what's kind of going through your mind? Because I'm sure all of those thoughts are going through your mind and more.
Yeah, absolutely. That was exactly like, there was no easy decisions, because each decision we were trying to balance each decision, and each decision had its advantages and disadvantages. I think the way we were thinking about it, was maybe it's worth to stay and just kind of wait until maybe like being in some villages. Probably at the time we thought maybe it's only the cities that are kind of under threat, and maybe it's just better to wait it out and then make a decision what to do. At least you're kind of in one place. It's probably safe at the time. And then on the other side, we were thinking, well, everyone was kind of recommending that we should go to leave to Europe as fast as we can, but there were risks involved in that as well, because at the time this was about 600 or 700 kilometers from the closest border, and to drive, like, gas stations were becoming empty. There were huge, massive lines at gas stations. So there was no, guarantee of that we get gas, number one. Number two, we started hearing that highways were starting to get bombed by Russian bombers. So you literally just don't know, and then what happens if your car breaks down in the middle of the highway, in the middle of nowhere? Like, what do you do then? Like, maybe it's just better to be in a safe home where you are now, and with people that and with food or whatever, with all your things. What if you get stuck on a highway? So it's just like there's all these risks that are involved that are just unknown. So I think when we first
just to
got
put
there,
in perspective, because I think some people don't know the kilometers and miles. So 600, 700 kilometers is around 375, 425 miles, 400 miles,
450 miles.
So put that in perspective, everybody. Your car, I know my car, anywhere from like 300, if I fill up the tank, the number says around 350 to 400 miles, depending, but that's not stop and go traffic as well, right? So if it's really bad traffic.
And not only that,
So it's not one gas.
Yeah, no, it's not one thing, but not only that, but there's also we heard there's lines at the border were piling up where people are waiting for hours, and the lines are 30-mile long lines, unheard of, craziness, So
and all these gas stations, it's not like they're just sitting there passing out gas. I'm sure a lot of them are going to be in no gas, empty, or whatever it might be. So I just want to put everyone's perspective in there, thinking oh, what's a big deal? Drive 400 miles. We can do that. Just jump in a car. It doesn't work that way. You have to really put that into all perspectives. So again, just before you went on, I just wanted to make sure everyone really kind of feels that situation of the decision that you're about to make,
and the threat of literally bombs, helicopters and bombers flying off. And
we're not talking about potholes. We're talking about literal bombs coming down on you.
Scary. So it wasn't clear. So I think at the time when we first got there, we were thinking maybe we'll stay there for a few days. And then kind of make our decision. I think we originally planned to stay there for 2-3 days, and then see how the situation evolves. Again, at the time we just didn't know, is this thing going to be a few days and that's it, or is some or is it going to be long? You just don't know. And then I think a few hours passed by. We rented a hotel room also nearby, in the small village. We even rented the hotel for a couple of days just in case. It was 8 of us. We were on 4 different cars, and I think towards the evening, we started thinking maybe it's actually better to actually take the risk and go towards the border, because something I remember that was really going through my mind was at the time, especially like when we did go, was from, do you remember the movie World War Z with Brad Pitt? Do you remember? Do you remember when in the middle of the movie when he goes to the Spanish family's building? Remember they were hiding from the zombies, and then he was like convincing them to leave. He was like, "Movement is life."
Movement is life. Right. Yeah.
So that was the phrase that was going through my mind, that like movement is life, and we need to keep moving. And then me and my wife agreed that, my wife was like, okay, well, we have to agree that the thing is, like, we had a sedan and we had like a bad tire also, so we get like a potential problem with the car, and you got to understand, like, Ukrainian roads are not that good, like, especially as you go towards west, they're like massive potholes. So it was it was kind of risky at the time, and we thought, well, we should be ready even if our car breaks down, or any car breaks down. We should just go on foot. We should just be ready, like leave our bags, just throw in a book bag and just go on foot. So no matter what, just keep going towards the border. But anyways, we actually decided
which border would you decide on? Because there are a couple, obviously some closer than others, but you have Poland, you have Hungary, Slovakia, Romania. So we like kind of, I think the direct route, when I'm looking at a map, again, I don't know anything about the actual terrain and the roads and all that, looked like Poland would be the quickest. But how did you guys make that decision?
At the time we were like, well, we'll make that decision as we get closer to the border.
Drive and we'll figure it out. Right. Yeah.
The problem was that everybody was going to the Polish border at the time. So the biggest traffic was at the Polish border. So we were like, maybe we should just go to like the Hungarian border, the Czech or the Slovakia border. So or Moldova. We weren't really sure at the time. At the time we were just like, let's just go west. But we did make the decision. We were like, we didn't get much sleep and we were really, really tired. So we're like, okay, let's at least rest at night. And we planned to leave at 5 a.m. We thought, at 5 a.m., let's wake up and go. We decided to leave our car behind because we thought it was too risky. Our friends had basically it was on 3 SUVs. We thought it would be much safer to have the SUVs, and it's good to go on multiple cars, because we thought in case one gets broken down or whatever, we could just leave it on the street and all keep moving west. So we go to sleep at 5 a.m. We wake up. It's still middle of the night, and we head out. And I remember like literally like 10 minutes as soon as we head out, we hit up on our first border, not border, but it's like a check post. It's like basically you can think of like a small road, and there's concrete blocks that were just put on there, so you can't get through. And there's men with like machine guns, and you don't know who they are. You don't know. You can't see, you don't know, are they Ukrainians? Are they Russians? You don't know. And they're obviously not, happy about anything. It's just a volatile situation. You don't know how they're going to react to see you. It was very kind of nerve-wracking situation. And, we kind of calmly, pulled up to it, because there was also no other road to go. Like at that time, that road, we had to take that road to because the other roads we already heard you cannot take those. Like they're already either occupied or being actively bombed. So there was only one road we can take. So we pull up and, we roll down our windows, and they're like asking to see papers, and thankfully, like they looked through our passports, they looked through our papers, and thankfully there wasn't any problems. But it was you could see like the tension was building up, so they let us pass. And at the time we started, we thought the best thing we can do is to avoid all big cities. So we just need to go around big cities, because they're the ones who were kind of all being targeted at the time. And I remember we started driving south at first, and we're driving towards the direction of Odessa, and we saw a huge bomb go off in the distance, like massive. I was like, oh my God, it was like some massive explosion. I don't know. I think it was like in the direction of Kiev. Maybe it was some sort of military base. And then also driving along the highways, was 3 times we met military convoys heading slowly, towards us, basically going the other way, Ukrainian military convoys. And, they're all like heading slowly. They're all heading like, with lights off. So because they don't want to like be visible in case there are planes flying over overhead. But they were really really long, and it's I still get the goosebumps talking about it, because it's also like when you're driving past them, you realize you're driving past like number one target for Russian bombers. It was just nerve-wracking, and also just seeing in real life, seeing tanks and military convoys like in front of you going by, and like just seeing soldiers. I don't know, it's surreal. Like you can't imagine it until you actually see it, and you're like, you realize these men are going to war, like they're going to protect their country. Like it's just surreal. So we kept heading west. At the first, I remember the first like 8 or 9 gas stations we passed were empty. They were just closed. So it was, but we did hear rumors that as you get further west, the gas stations were open, and you could get gas there. So we kept driving, and thankfully we also agreed that we would just fill up as soon as we see, as soon as we even run out of like 20% down from the gas, from gas tank, we just fill up.
Did you have any spare tanks or anything like that? Like containers that you had?
2 of our friends had a few spare tanks, and we also actually tried to siphon gas from our car, the one that we left behind. Right? Yeah, exactly. But we couldn't. We had like a small Mercedes. I think Mercedes has like some sort of security feature that doesn't allow you to siphon off gas. Yeah. So we tried, and it didn't work. So unfortunately, we couldn't do that. But we did, thankfully we did, encounter gas stations that were full, but they did set limits to how much gas you can get. You can only get, I think it was 20 liters of gas, which is about a quarter of a tank, at most at a time. And yeah, it took us, there was lots of security posts that were literally being built as we were driving through them. I remember we also met like a convoy of Austrian cars with like Austrian flags. I think it was like the Austrian embassy also like heading west. And it took us about 20 hours. It took us a full day of driving, and as we were heading west, like, but it was interesting. I remember I was also like trying to tweet every opportunity I can get, because I remember I wasn't hungry, I wasn't thirsty, like the adrenaline that you have, like everything that's, like your focus is on just getting to the border. Like, it's just incredible how your body changes and adapts to the situation, and everything else just takes a back seat, and you're just kind of focused on that. And I remember the probably the scariest part was we were already really far west. We were already like about maybe 100 miles from the border. We got stuck in really, really massive traffic. And then we heard rumors that there were bombings happening in a city right nearby us. This is already on the west coast of Ukraine, and that Chechen soldiers were landing, paratroopers were landing somewhere nearby. And you got to understand, like, Chechen soldiers, like, they have a brutal reputation, right? Like they I don't know if you, like, how many of your listeners know, but like, their leader is like Ramzan Kadyrov. He's like a famous warlord, who leads like this Chechen, like, kind of separate army almost, in Russia. So they're really known for their brutality. So it was really kind of scary to hear that they might be, like, they have no concern for, like, for civilian life. So that was kind of nerve-wracking. But at some point I realized, when we were stuck in traffic, I looked at the map. Even though we were 100 miles away from the border crossing, I look at the map and we're literally like 100 meters from the Polish border. Like, it was just a forest, but it was still like the Polish border. And I was like, whoa. So I was like, at least I was like, we should probably be safe, because I don't think they would dare bomb so close to NATO territory. Like, I think that, so we kind of felt we should probably be safe there. And at the time we had a contact who advised us to avoid the Polish border, to go to either the Hungarian or the Slovakian border. So that's kind of where we went. And we got there in the middle of the night. It was huge traffic, it was massive traffic. Cars weren't really moving. We decided to, take a 3 or 4 hour nap. We were just exhausted at the time. Woke up at 7 a.m. and got in line. And, it only took us about 3 hours to go through the border, which was, really, really small.
And you went through which one? The Hungarian one?
Hungarian border. And that morning, I guess this was like Friday morning or Saturday morning. Yeah, we go through the Hungarian border, and it's like, you just end up in a different world. It's like,
Right.
My wife, I remember we stopped by the first gas station in Hungary, and my wife just kind of like leaned over like the candy stand and started crying. Like it was so emotional for her. And then, an interesting switch happened mentally, like literally for everyone, like all of us, like as we were, like leaving Ukraine, all our focus was on actually like leaving, right? And then as soon as you leave, as soon as you're safe, the next thing is like, okay, oh my God, how can we help? What can we do? Like, how do we help others? Like, what is it that we can do? And we just started like, that was the only thing we can do. And like, then all these like emotions come up. It's like, you almost like start feeling bad. It's like, okay, what about all these people who couldn't leave? How do we help the rest of the family, friends and family? And and then like people started reaching out to me, like, tons of people on Twitter reaching out to me, offering their homes for, refugees to, to stay if anybody needs help, if, offering like, money, like all sorts of support. It's just incredible to see. So, basically what we started to do the next week, we spent all our time connecting with people who were reaching out to us for help, and connecting them with people who were offering help. So we were just kind of like doing that manually while the governments were still not kind of set up to accept refugees officially. So that's kind of what we focused on. We stayed in Budapest, in Hungary for, I think 9 days or 10 days, just kind of, with that focus, and, didn't really know where we would go afterwards, but we wanted to stay close to the border, and help as much as we could. And then, after I rented an Airbnb in Budapest, and then we were like thinking where to go next, whether we should stay in Hungary or move somewhere else. And I was talking to my good friend Elke, and he was like, oh, Leon Cukernik, who I'm sure a lot of people know from the poker world.
For everyone knows, he owns King's Casino. The WSOP Europe has been at the King's Casino over the last several years. So you probably have heard this person's name before, Leon Cernik.
Yeah, exactly. So he basically, what he did, which is incredible, he literally rented out a number, like 4 different hotels in an area not far from the King's Casino. These hotels were like, some of them were even shut down because of COVID, and he just reopened them. So he got enough room for 500 people for refugees, and he was like, just come here, bring whoever needs help. Guaranteed, I can put them up for anywhere from a month up to a year. I can help them.
Amazing.
I can provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I can give them some money. I can provide them, legal support, get them a job if they want, like everything. It's just absolutely incredible. So,
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. So, personally, I didn't need the help. So we sent my wife's friends and family who did need the help. We sent them there, but we wanted to stay close to them. So I just rented an Airbnb in the town nearby. I didn't want to take up like a space that could be used by some other refugee. But we did rent an Airbnb nearby there, and that's kind of where we've been over the past month. And it's just been incredible. Like, the people who are there, the refugees who are there, are so thankful to Leon, what he's done. And he offered them work essentially as well. Like if whoever wants a job, and it's just been great. And the Czech government has now offered everyone, like proper, like refugee status, which, which comes with certain rights and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where where we are today. And, kind of, just focused on, my personal evolution went from helping people manually. I think there were government resources that could help. So that was way more efficient. So I started pointing people towards, I think I was in touch with Airbnb. They launched this Airbnb.org for people who want to offer their homes for refugees. And then I partnered up with the King Bedouin Foundation, which is like this famous foundation that works with different NGOs to provide support. So they were working with Red Cross in Poland, with people in need in Czechia, and the Caritas Foundation in Ukraine. These are like famous NGOs. So I partnered with them to raise money for refugees and for help in Ukraine when it's possible. So we launched that, and honestly, it's just been incredibly supportive, especially from the poker community. I have to say just how incredible the poker community has been. We've now raised through that over $50,000 through that, and a large portion of that coming through the poker community. So just again showing even if the poker community is kind of small, how supportive they are, how they can come together when something like this is needed in times of tragedy.
So Eugene, if somebody who's listening to the show wants to help out with a donation of any sort, is there a website or anything like that they can go to?
Yeah, they can go to my Twitter. It's pinned on my Twitter. Like you could see the thread when I post a link to the King Bedouin Foundation. They're very transparent. Like, unlike, I wanted to make sure I find a partner that, like some charities, like they take a big percent of funds, they don't go to the right place. I wanted to make sure I find the right partner. So with them, they were very transparent. Like they basically said, let's 95% of the funds go directly to the NGOs, and they vet these NGOs very, very carefully. So, it was a really good conversation with them. So I trust them fully. So I was able, I was like willing to put my reputation on the line and partner with them. And, that's probably like the best thing I can do. So I would point people towards that.
Perfect. And so like for people who are doing, I'm on there right now, I see it, is that go to Eugene's Twitter. Again, Eugene, last name is spelled Katchalov. And so you can go there, and then it's the first tweet. It's his pin. He pinned the tweet, and there's a link directly there if you'd like to make any donations or read more about that or what they do, et cetera, obviously. So a couple of questions or a couple of comments more. Obviously, I was watching your entire Twitter feed, et cetera. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts and your kind of emotions to a couple of the pictures and videos, which really stick out in my mind. The first one was the missile that's stuck in the ground.
Yeah.
Talk a little, and for people who are listening to me, if you haven't seen the tweet, I mean, I'm telling you, you're going to have to go see this. It's unbelievable. Talk a little bit about that, Ms., how it came about and how close it was to people that right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like now, like that the war has been going on for, it's 40 days or so. It's like you've seen a lot of pictures like this, but at the time, this was like day 2 or something.
Yeah, exactly. It was right away, right?
This was my wife's sister, basically my wife's sister and parents. They lived in Kharkiv, which is like, the very east coast of Ukraine. It was, basically like 20 miles from the Russian border. And it was the city that was like targeted, to a heavy degree still today. At the time they weren't able to leave. They were kind of staying home. So they were just kind of hiding, in the basements, in their apartment buildings. My wife was trying to convince them to leave, but they did leave after a week, thankfully. So they're in Europe now, but at the time they were still there. And yeah, that was a picture that was taken by, so my wife's sister, it was somebody who was with her in the basement. It was basically someone from their apartment complex, went outside and it was 20 meters from, it was literally like under street, like just like, oh my God, like, and she had some other scary stories. At some point, like on day 4 of the invasion, some guy comes in, knocking in, right? And he's like, oh, I'm a Ukrainian, special service, special forces or whatever. But then they noticed he has a very unique accent, and they realized it's not a Ukrainian accent, it's a Russian accent. He's asking them all sorts of weird questions, right? And they realized this is like a Russian, probably paratrooper who were like basically doing reconnaissance. They were like making all these marks in, the city. So it's just scary, like literally like, Russian paratroopers, because what they were doing, I think they were, some of them were landing on top of buildings, and they were, seeking out where they can hide in case, from, within DC. It's just really scary. So at some point they did decide to leave, and thankfully, did make it out of Kharkiv about a week into the war, and they're now in Europe. But yeah, but that was the background of that picture.
What about the explosion? I think it said on there that your wife's store was very close to that, and their windows blew out because of the explosion. There was a video that you showed on your Twitter feed.
Yeah, so my wife has 4 stores. She had 3 in Kiev and 1 in Kharkiv, right in the center of Kharkiv. And for people who don't know, Kharkiv is the 2nd largest city in Ukraine. It's a city of 1.5 million people. So it's a huge metropolitan city. And she had a store right in the middle, of the main area, like the main street. And yeah, and a rocket went off nearby and just literally took off all her windows, and everything just kind of collapsed into it. just yeah, it's Kharkiv has suffered a lot, through this, and yeah, my wife's store unfortunately as well. Yeah, so yeah, that's where it's from.
I think I read somewhere that your wife, incredible, paid her employees like 2 months in advance to be like, here,
Yeah,
just be safe and go. And so has she been in contact with some of her employees?
yeah, she's been able to actually restart the business because it's mostly an online business. They were able to move some of the employees to the very west coast of the country and kind of restart her business there. And they're actually like now raising a lot of money for the Ukrainian military to support them, and yeah, it's just incredible. Like you can see so many people everyone's just kind of doing whatever they can to help, whether it's with logistics or funding or just anything. Like it's incredible how you see how the whole country came together, and also so much Europe and just so much of the rest of the world kind of came together, and everyone's kind of trying to help as much as they can in any way they can.
Well, what an incredible story. I mean, really, we don't want, this is a poker show. Obviously, we're not here to be political, etc. But I think that it's important to give the journey that you had and
just the human aspect.
Yeah, this is just factual. Like this is just what happened. And I think it was just, to me, I was so mesmerized watching your Twitter feed and on edge and just wanting to know what happened to a friend. I wanted to see what happened. And I really thought it'd be great for you to describe that to my listeners. And
thank you, Bernard.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I really think it's a great story. And I'm so glad you're safe. I'm so glad you're somewhere. And I'm so glad that family and friends are as well. Again, for people who are interested in donating, I will donate right as we get off the phone. I will make sure that I will donate to this cause. But go to Eugene's Twitter, again, Eugene Katchalov, Katchalov, and it is his first tweet that is pinned. It's not in his bio. It's in the first tweet. It'll be on top, and then there'll be a link directly to that if you're interested learning more even about that for the Emergency Response Fund for Ukraine. Thanks, Eugene. Really appreciate it. What a fantastic story, and thank you for going into such detail about it, and all the best to you and your family and friends.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you for helping me to bring light to this situation. So appreciate that, and thank you, and just I just want to say again, like I know you have mostly a poker audience. I just want to like again say like how incredible the poker community has been in this. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, we are all, we're all humans, right? That's what it comes down to, whether poker players or whatever industry or esports or whatever it might be, we're just humans all alike. So
exactly.
Fantastic story. Thanks so much for Eugene Katchalov for coming on and explaining what he went through on February 24th and the days afterward. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking more about poker, and amazingly, the World Series of Poker is right around the corner. We're so excited about that, obviously, and the 15th anniversary of the show is next month as well. So, as always, may you always go in with the best hand, and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody. And for everyone on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this incredible interview that we had with Eugene. And please like and subscribe down below if you want to get more content like this and other stories from the world of poker.